Eight races, 8 weeks. It's as tough as sim racing gets. In the most craft-dependent car that iRacing has seen since the inception of the Formula V, this is the car that has set up Formula careers for nearly half a century. So in this virtual space, who will join the list of winners in this Irish sim racing group? This is the opening round of the RTA Formula Ford 1600 series. Welcome to Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit, and welcome to the Global SimRacing Channel. Good evening, sim racing fans. My name is Jake Sperry, and along with me for the ride tonight is Craig King. Behind the scenes is our director, Daniel Costello, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. All 8 rounds of the championship will take place within the United Kingdom, starting today for the full expanse of Brands Hatch here in the virtual Kent countryside. Let's take a look at our GSRC track guide, showcasing from the drop of the flag what makes this British icon such a revered challenge for the drivers tonight.
Welcome to Brands Hatch. When popular British racing circuits get listed, this track just to the southeast of London often finds itself near the top. The extensive history of the venue has meant that many famous names in racing have ran laps here. But the stats make it sound deceptively simple, with the Grand Prix and Indy course having 9 and 6 turns respectively. Laps might be short, but they're also fast, and the corners are often a challenge to get right. As you'd expect, that means passing is quite difficult, with most drivers leaning towards sending one up the inside at Druids. You might occasionally see overtakes into the first corner, Paddock Hill Bend, but the blind apex and gigantic drop in elevation make that an errand for only the brave. Many of the corner names pay tribute to famous British drivers from the past decades, such as Hill, Surtees, Sterling, and Clark. In fact, the fame extends beyond the drivers, but to the cars as well, with this place seeing everything from Formula 1 to Formula 4, touring cars, GT cars, motorcycles, and even rallycross. It's a gorgeously scenic venue where lush trees envelop the back half of the course, while the front half is mostly encapsulated inside a natural amphitheater. This makes it extremely popular with race fans who can see a majority of the circuit from many seating positions. With a great location near a major metropolitan hub, a spectator-friendly layout, and an experience that challenges drivers, you can see why this place remains abuzz with racing to this day.
So that's what Forcam has to offer for these drivers in the first of 2 visits this season to this circuit, one on the Grand Prix, one on the Indy layout. But the Grand Prix layout, not quite Barber Motorsports Park that we're going to be dealing with here today, but Brands Hatch. It's going to be a really important challenge here, really, Craig, when you understand that this is the sort of track which, in terms of the national scene in British motorsport, it's probably second only to Silverstone.
Yeah, this is a classic British track full of history. It's got a little something for everyone. It's 2.433 miles, 9 turns, full of elevation changes and flowing sections, but it can provide a challenge for all sorts of racing series and different car classes. Of course, if you've got the weight of the car on these mid-corners on the hills, you're going to have a little bit of an issue. Take Paddock Hill Bend and, of course, Sheen and Clark. Many drivers will like to make their moves around the Druids hairpin, but you've got to be careful because of Graham Hill Bend. It has that favourable runoff, which allows drivers to get a run down to the late apex Surtees. Now, these little Formula cars will like to slide around, so control is crucial for the drivers, as well as keeping the speed up around some of those high-speed corners, like Sheen, as I mentioned. But it's an old-school narrow track, and it will throw you off the moment you pick up a little bit of grass on the outside. So the question, Jake, is who will be brave enough to push the car to the limit around this track?
Well, no more important when you understand this circuit than the fact that the Brabham Straight, in terms of putting a level on it, isn't exactly straight, so to speak. You then head down through Paddock Hill Bend and you look at this place. Almost everything around this circuit has a name, has a history, has a legacy, which is surrounded with it. And you look at the 4 places here today, Craig, where overtaking will be a key to getting the lap sorted. Turn 1 into Paddock Hill Bend, turn 2 up into Druids, you look over at turn 5 over at the Hawthorne Bend, and then the Clark Curve to end the lap. You do have places to overtake, but this track doesn't have much of a long straight to work with, which might be a benefit for these drivers in these lower-powered Ray FF1600s.
Yeah, Pilgrim's Drop is your longest straight on the course, so you have to be a little bit hopeful that you get that run. That's why Surtees, a double apex, it's one of those corners. I remember on a different sim, the training one of the training challenges you had was get Surtees right, because you want to just take it in a line that allows you to get the best run there. So hopefully they get the run into Pilgrims, but of course you have to be careful. You do have a couple corners you cannot make a move, and it's really a crucial case of using those corners to set yourself up. So we know that Clark is a nice overtaking corner, but you can't do an overtake at Sterling's, so set yourself up for Clark by using Sterling's with that deep little dip in the middle of Sterling's to just get the run.
You certainly can do, and that is where you're going to find so many important runs. We are in the thralls of qualifying at the moment. They have 15 minutes to go and set lap times. We are in heat formats here today, though, here around Brands Hatch, which means that when the clock does indeed strike 0, that is that. So this is what we're dealing with today. Race 1, just 15 minutes here, a grid set by qualifying. Race 2, even shorter, a 10-minute dash as you go through, trying to get as much as you can out of the race. That'll be frantic, grid set by the results of race number 1. The third race, though, that's where it's going to get interesting here, Craig. You've got 20 minutes worth of racing, but it's a top 8 invert. And for all 3 races, drive-through penalty at 15, disqualification at 20. That's where it gets interesting.
Yeah, you shouldn't be seeing, knock on wood, anybody hit that 20 mark. But of course, if you're in that sprint format, you are really pushing it. So sometimes at the start of the race, you might be a little bit liberal with those off tracks just to find a little bit of space. So they have to be a little bit careful. I have done some quick races around here I think in Skip Barber's, I've done some races around here before. It is tough around here just to get your bearings right. And the heat format, you can have a bad first heat and basically make yourself redeemed by having that decent second heat that sets you up. Because if you get that P8 in heat 2, you're going to be able to get the pole position for that final heat, and that can be very crucial.
It certainly can do. And here with 5 minutes and 20 seconds remaining on the clocks right now, here are your temperatures and conditions out there here today. It is a cool 20, or I'd say it's quite warm 20 degrees air temperature here in Kent, 37 degrees track temperature or 99 Fahrenheit, winds about 8 miles an hour from the south, so we'll be buffeting about a little bit, but this is a car which does not have, so to speak, much downforce to speak of, so that's going to be interesting. You're relying a lot on the mechanical grip of the car as you go through the corners. It is the 2 Dempseys, though, 1 and 2 at the moment. It is Keith, who is ahead of Peter by only about 400ths of a second at this moment in time. Jason Cooper, who's currently second in the Simify MX5 World Sim Series, another of our series here at the Global SimRacing Channel, currently 3rd fastest.
Yeah, just look at those gaps as well. It's very tight when you think that the top 4 are separated by less than half a second, and then the gaps are pretty spread out, but it is still early days here. I have noticed, you talk about the mechanical grip, we have heard and seen in practice the cars, some of them sliding, just not able to find that limit and just getting a bit too hot on the throttle. And here you see a little bit of slipstreaming will be used by some of these drivers just to see what they can get as they head down into the Derek Minter straight and up again, just to find some more lines. Using that slipstream could be crucial as another driver at the back there slides out at Sheen. But all of a sudden, if you are slipstreaming, just make sure you are not too fast, otherwise you might compromise your lap.
Yeah, that was the number 7, Robert Fleming, who was in trouble. Jason Cooper goes quickest on a 1:97, really improving the time. Keith Dempsey giving the tow the entire lap to Johnny McMullen, and in the number 18, McMullen does not improve on a 33.6, so those times not able to improve. There is Jason Cooper in a very fitting tribute livery to the legendary rally driver Craig Breen. What an absolute shame that was, hearing the news of him in Croatia. But this really is where you have to be absolutely on it here in the final stages. You have to cross the line within a minute and a half if you want to get 2 lap or your final lap in, because once the checkered flag hits 0, that's it. You can see just how basic it is when you got the in-car controls as you go through. It's very much got that old school feel to it. You're trying to ratchet up through. Look at that, dancing around with the gears. You even got there the gear lever there on the right-hand side. So this is a very old school style of machine. It's not often that you get a box style gearbox to go through there, Craig, more rather than the flappy paddle.
No, give me a flappy paddle any day of the week, but especially with these cars, it is just that extra challenge. Again, it's like it is the British version of the skip bar width. If you want to give that comparison to somebody that's never done that before, but look at the improvements that are coming down here. Fastest lap time by Jason Cooper again. He's now 2 attempts ahead of everybody. He's really got that car sorted. There is 2 minutes left to go in the race, in the quali, sorry. So it's all still to play for. Keep your eyes on the 2 Dempseys, because to me they look like the closest, but Chris Knox in that number 12 car, you cannot rule him out either. He's only 4 tenths behind.
Look at that from Lawrence de Soswa. 14,000 subscribers on YouTube he's got. One of the great independents out there for understanding what is good and hip in sim racing. And he is absolutely hanging out the tail as he goes through every single corner out there at this point in time. Another little spinner there on the inside. That would have been Gary Corcoran in a little bit of trouble, but de Soswa then looking to really make some drive happen. And this is the thing, you're going to have to rely on going a little bit sideways, but if you don't have the time, it's not good. And because we're inside the final 90 seconds, this is it. These are the final laps now, Craig, coming in.
Yeah, this is it. It is now make or break. And you see Lawrence deciding to actually just take a little bit of a breather and realize that lap wasn't going to be quick enough. So he's decided to just start again, give himself a bit of space. There's about 4 cars ahead of him. He's going to look for that himself. Jason Cooper is also looking to see what he wants to do. He's got 1 more lap left himself, and he may cross the line. We are currently looking at one of these cars. Look at these cars and how they just drive by. That is the 36 of Keith Dempsey. He's trying to find something. Is he going to clip the line there? He isn't. Comes around just a couple more corners. Jason Cooper did not improve. What can Keith Dempsey do?
Dempsey had a little bit of understeer as he went through at the Westfield bend. That might be the only place where it's gone wrong for him. Dempsey making a charge then over towards the line. It's a 277 that he's trying to improve on. He's got to beat an 069. It's a 32.4, so Keith Dempsey won't be able to make it happen. 15 seconds to go. Is anybody going to be able to get a lap in? Rory O'Shea might be able to. Sean McClements might. And Peter Dempsey here, I think, is going to be just on the wrong side through the final section. 3rd fastest is going to make a desperate charge to the line, but he is going to be out of time. Checkered flag then, out then in session. And we're able to get then a starting grid then for everyone today. 35 drivers then will be able to take to the grid. And it is number 35 who is on pole position. That is Jason Cooper. A 132.069 will be on pole by 0.2 of a second over 2 Dempseys. Keith, followed by Peter. Chris Knox will start from 4th position with Sean McClements in 5th and Brandon McCorgan in 6th position. You then got Bruno Walraven in 7th, Rory O'Shea in 8th, Sean McGoldrick will start this one from 9th. Rounding out the top 10 here, Craig, is Peter McCann.
Yep, and as we come to 11th, it's Barra Hodson who will take into 11th. Tony Stack will take 12th. M. Jamal Gaddor, apologies for that, will take 13th. And Ronan Henderman will be 14th. Then it's Ian May, 15th. Johnny McMullen in 16th. Brian McCarthy, in 17th. Evan Walsh will take 18th. Weifeng Shan will take 19th. And Rob Parks will be 20th, as we still have another page to go.
Yeah, Lawrence de Soswa will go from 21st. 2 Little Ducks for Patrick McKenna in 22nd. Enda Farrell and John McDonald will line up row 12 with Andrew Murphy and Dave Collier. Following that will be Ben McCluffrey as well as Mark Ivory. 29th and 30th will be Robert Fleming and Gary Corcoran. The last 5 will be there on your screen with Sebastian Scholten, David Freeman, Wayne O'Keefe, Graham Melvin, and Albert Reed. The last 2 unable then to set a representative time as we are in the gridding phase out there overall. Ignore that person in 36. He doesn't know how to sign up for an iRacing session, apparently. But we got ourselves some brilliant racing to come along. The gridding process then taking its final 5 seconds then before we will get ourselves into the starting procedure. And these drivers will have 15 minutes to make sure that they are in position. Cooper, Dempsey, Knox. Your top 4 then as they get themselves ready. Who's going to get the big run then? Over towards Paddock Hill Bend. Green flag in the air. We are underway and racing. It's a good start by Keith Dempsey then on the front row of the grid. He will challenge Jason Cooper here into Paddock Hill Bend, but they'll go line astern through the front 4. About 5th position, Sean McClements will hold off McGugan at this moment in time in 6th. They descend down the hill, up the Pilgrim's Rise for the first time, into the Druids corner. Wide will go Jason Cooper, through will go Keith Dempsey. He will take the race lead as they head down to Graham Hill Bend.
And now Cooper's got to try and make sure he holds off Peter Dempsey, and he's managed to do that as everyone gets through. There was one driver at the back of the field, Patrick McKenna, did jump start and will take a black flag for that. But outside of that, nobody making big moves on the start. But look at the charge that Jason Cooper has coming out of Sterling to make that move.
Oh, now they're going to start getting interesting here. Who do you want to work with at this stage? Into the Hawthorne Bend, around the outside, trying to hold on to station. Cooper's still on the wrong side of the road here to Westfield Bend, but can he get clearance under braking? Still going to push at the inside. It gets tougher and tougher to hold too wide through here. Wide they go. Spinner in the background then. That is troubles around, and that is no good. No good at all for what is Bruno Walraven, who is in a bit of trouble there. But crucially, Dempsey there in control and off the road when Jason Cooper again for a second time. And just like that, he drops down a number of positions. He finds himself now struggling about with Rory O'Shea and Brandon McGugan.
Yeah, a small mistake there from Cooper. Tried to make sure he gave enough room on the inside, but it did not work for him. And now he's lost a little bit of a slipstream because at the front of the field, you start to see the 4 wide, oh, well, not 4 wide, but 4 together. They were 4 wide, we'll be getting a little bit excited there, but it is Keith Dempsey leading them ahead. And all of a sudden, you can just start to see, going into Druid, this is where they want to start to look at making moves. And that is Peter Dempsey having to fight off Chris Knox. And Chris Knox wants to try and get this around the outside.
Yeah, straight down the inside then, and holding on to station. Peter Dempsey will hold off Chris Knox to the left, to the right, trying to find a way to get through here. They're really battling. Round goes Chris Knox. McClements is going to get tapped around as well through that section of road, and he's going to be able to keep on going, but they're a big hit. Chris Knox spinning it, going into that section of road. That's how quickly you can all fall wrong. They're not doing 100 laps. They've only got 15 minutes on the clock, but that's how quickly you can find yourself in an instant, especially when you're being uber aggressive in the early laps on cold tyres.
Now he has to think about how does he recover from this, because that is quite well, it's not an early movement. Another spinner as well. In May just gets tagged around and he starts spinning. But all those positions they've made up, they're going to lose. But think about Jason Cooper. He has made his way back up to P3 because of those incidents there. And all of a sudden what looked like the struggle for him has come back to the race in his hands. And he's almost catching up to both Dempseys.
Yeah, Sean McGoldrick here has probably got the worst seat in the house. There goes the spin there. And Brandon McGugan goes around as McGugan is going to be in a lot of trouble after that. So no ideal scenario there coming through the final corner. And it goes to show you, this is an FIA Grade 2 style circuit, which means it's not as rigorous as a Grade 1 standard here, Craig, which means, of course, gravel and grass is everywhere. You can't dip a tyre off.
No, just like I said earlier, you cannot make that extra push to try and get a little bit extra because one tyre is going to cost you. And of course, with these cars that like to slide around a bit, that's going to happen quite a lot as you start to see the cars really trying to control themselves around here. I'll just keep my eyes near the back of the field. Evan Walsh has made up 8 positions so far, as is Rob Parks. He's now almost about to take another position. He's right by Gandor, and he's side by side with him. He looks to make that move to take a P9. That makes it 9 positions so far for Walsh. If he holds on to this, and it's going to be a bit of a struggle, it's going to be 9, and he's lost it again. That's going to be an interesting fight.
Currently looking at Mark Ivory, though, all the way back here in 20th position. This is important battling that they've got out here, because they know that they are really trying to get as much as they can out of it. These are for the minor points in this series for confirmation First position is 30 points in this championship. Second is 28, third is 26. 2-point increment down to 9th place, where it goes from 16 points to 15 points, and then down to 23rd place. That is 1 point. On for the race lead, though, as Dempsey versus Dempsey. It's Keith versus Peter. It's Keith who gets there, but Jason Cooper's back in the mix with the fastest lap to boot as well. Peter Dempsey's now going to have to try and figure out, does he want to be the aggressor or the defender?
Well, they've got 10 minutes to figure out what to do. Do the Dempseys hold each other up, or do they work together to try and get away from Cooper? It is going to be a challenge for both of them in this respect, because Cooper, he gets that slipstream. I know it sounds weird with no aero on these cars, no wings, but the slipstream that these cars can get pushing through the air, it's pretty substantial. You start to see both of them thinking like they have to take the middle or take the inside line, and all of a sudden we may have got a free wide there for a moment, but in fact, we're going to get the Dempseys just decide to play a little bit of car blockage.
Yeah, they're going to block the road up. This is only 2 wide, 3 wide at best. You're going to have to pick and choose your moments up into the Westfield Bend. A lot of trying to get out of it there, these top three. And if they start playing games, they might bring Rory O'Shea, the 81, back into play, who is definitely no slouch when it comes to a series like this, as that's way in the grass there from Peter Dempsey. What a stop there from him, as he's able to keep that one pointing on the island. I'm saying they're going to bring Rory O'Shea in. Rory O'Shea, of course, is the RTA GT1 Challenge champion.
Yeah, and you can see why he's the champion. He's just keeping it nice and steady, waiting for the opportunity, and already he's gained about a second on these guys. And you start to see the lap times. We may have to see it. I'll just give it to you. They're 33s for the top three. And O'Shea may have done a 33 himself, but he is starting to challenge Dempsey again, side by side. You see this a lot, but there is an opportunity there for Cooper. He's going to try and do this, but he'd have to do it around the outside of Graham Hill. He thinks second about it. He is really struggling to find a line here to try and get these positions.
Yeah, consistency might be the only struggle point at this moment. On the brakes they go. In through the left, a little bit of blinking left from Keith Dempsey. That wouldn't have helped Peter Dempsey on his braking point. It's opened up the door now for Jason Cooper, who'll move to the outside. But crucially, Keith Dempsey giving the toe to the inside, trying to give a little bit more advantage as they go down Pilgrim's Drop and now dive through. But it won't matter. Jason Cooper around the outside was never going to take no for an answer there, as he now moves into second position.
And the key thing, he had a little bit of dirty air going around Hawthorns there. So that's a fantastic little move there to trust the car. And now all of a sudden, he is the one that can be a little bit more aggressive, catch up to Dempsey. There will be nobody to help Keith Dempsey here this time by. So it's going to be a little bit of a challenge. How long does it take for Cooper? It's not a question of if. It sounds like it's going to be a question of when. And that driver.
Well, that's going to be what we start asking. Who's going to find what as they go through? There are some other great battles as well as this top three that runs through Paddock Hill Bend, down the hill and back up it again. Cooper having to defend then in towards Druid's Corner here, turn 2, because Peter Dempsey's not done. He's going to look around the outside. He's not going to find it. You've got Sean McGoldrick right now holding a 5-car train back in 5th position, or at this moment in time. Peter McCann, Barra Hodson, Tony Stack, Evan Walsh is in it as well. That's a really important group here, these top 5s, because you want to be in and around there if you want to talk about race 3's invert.
Yeah, and at the moment, if these positions stayed the same for the second race, Tony Stack would get that invert in 8th place. So you can see why this is crucial. Yes, P7 doesn't sound very big at the moment, but in the grand scheme of things, it could be very helpful for them. Evan Walsh trying to get past Tony Stack, but unable to. And all of a sudden, Sean McGoldrick is able to just pull a couple of the cars away, and that's what he wants to see. Give himself more breathing room, because the more cars you bring, the more risk you have. Because one mistake won't just cost you a couple positions, it will cost you about a dozen positions. So that is one he has to hold and pray for.
That is some of the thinnest suspension you'll ever see on a race car, rushing through now into Stirling's Bend, and now looking to try and make that charge over towards the Clark Curve along the clearway straight, looking to try and get that move sorted. Walsh having to try and search for a way around Tony Stack is in front. Bye-bye. There goes Barra Hodgson. There goes Peter McCann. They'll get 2 for the price of 1. Side by side for the race lead as they go through and pushed into the gravel at Paddock Hill Bend. Jason Cooper keeps the throttle in, but he might lose a position for that little push through from Peter Dempsey. It's starting to kick off here with 5 minutes and 17 to go.
5 minutes and 17, but the overlap's still there for Cooper. He's going to try this on the inside of Hawthorne. No room for him at Graham Hill Bend, I mean. And that is going to hinder him, because now look at the gap, and it may sound like half a second's not a lot. That is quite a lot. Both of those drivers sliding there, and Peter Dempsey might be the worst one off.
Yeah, we also had a little look at Evan Walsh, who had a huge slide through Paddock Hill Bend, so that's why we cut to him. That's why he's a little bit further back. But now they're going to have to work now, otherwise they're going to drop Keith Dempsey, who's at 9/10 of a second. Around a second is the margin that you need to stay in range. They're not going to deal with too much dirty air, too much turbulence in these machines. Normally you get that from the aerodynamics of a front and a rear wing. Have you noticed there isn't really one of them in these Formula Fords? You're reliant on skill, as Brian McCarthy has found his way off the road.
And he was doing pretty well at the start of the race, and unfortunately that's the worst time for him now with 4 minutes left to have that mistake. He still had the second chance to try and get by up, but McCarthy is going to be falling down the order. Was running in ninth. He's now looking at 15th position as you start to see more battles happening around the field. This is, of course, Rob Parks trying to get past Gandor. He might be able to get this done, and that is P9 now because of the Evan Walsh spin.
Yeah, Jamal Gandor is really going to have to try and work hard here to get back in the 961, try and go around the outside to make this move happen at Paddock Hill. Not going to happen, but can attack quite nicely down the run. And if he can get up the rise here and get in towards the Druids corner, he's got a really good chance of making the move back, and he'll manage it by poison the car on the inside. Here comes the over and under, but this is Graham Hill Bend that comes up next. This left-hander about 80 degrees, and again, this is where you're reliant on car control. This is where it's important to have great driving tactics, because again, back to the inside goes Rob Parks. He never truly threw around this section, because look at this, back up and under again goes Jamal Gandor. This is a brilliant display of side-by-side battling between these two.
You're seeing two different styles here. Parks is sliding the car in and throwing it in. Gandor is doing a really nice precision driving. You'll start to see it here as Parks tries to take that inside. Expect a little bit of a slide. Holds it together though. Fantastic little battle going on here. But the more they fight, the more Evan Walsh comes back into the battle. Brandon McCorgan as well coming into that as well. As now we start to see a spin by Rob Parks as we just miss it, clip the grass. But the leaders, they're starting to push with 2 minutes to go.
Caught Evan Walsh in that as well, so both of them have dropped back. It was more a case of Parks and Recreation at that point for the race lead though. 2 laps to go. Little look into turn 1. Jason Cooper's going to have to work out where he wants to battle the Dempseys for it. He's going to go to the inside because Peter Dempsey's got to run, but isn't going to have enough of one as they push now through the second corner out there. Druids down in towards Graham Hill Bend turn 3. This is where you're going to need a little bit of patience, and positioning might be key here. Jason Cooper moves to the inside here, moving towards turn 4 at Surtees. Is he going to get the chance then to go through? Yes, he is, and there's going to be a little push on the outside, but watch out for Peter Dempsey now, because he's going to be the one with the run.
Here they go. They're going to try and go 3 wide. It's not possible here. It's not possible. There is an overlap for Keith Dempsey. Will he be able to get this into Hawthorne's? But we know how good Cooper is around the outside here. They keep it side by side. And Cooper, remember at the start of the race, he tried doing this at the start of the race and he went off. He's gone side by side one corner, decided not to go for another, but he's still side by side with Gene. The Dempsey are working together, even if it doesn't look like it, and they've managed to keep that 1 and 2. A little lap traffic car there, but Jason Cooper is in the worst place. A little tap by both of them, and they keep it going.
That is as close as it gets. That was Jason Cooper trying to find a way through. He'll get the move done around the outside, but those are the fine margins there. And oh, he grabs the grass. There he goes. Jason Cooper goes, and just like that, he is out of contention. White flag in the air. He'll be able to get that one back going and around again because of the fact that the damage is off by accident here, so we'll be able to get a finish out of it. But it's Dempsey versus Dempsey as we start the final lap then. Keith versus Peter. Who wants it? At the front of the field, it's Rory O'Shea now up to 3rd, Sean McGoldrick in 4th, Jason Cooper now drops back to 7th position behind Sean McClements out there in circuit. And there is Chan Wing Fei, who is now looking to try and move up into 12th position now. Chris Knox with fastest lap.
Yeah, Chris Knox is putting in a 31.9. That is what you want to see. Even at the back of the field, he's pushing Peter McCann for that P14 position. And now you start to see, look at the cars still side by side around here and just having battles everywhere. The leaders are still having their little scrap. And meanwhile, you see as they come through these corners, that is Rob Parks holding off. No, it's not. Sorry, it's Chris Knox holding off Peter McCann. I'm looking at the battle
Dempsey's
ahead.
Dempsey's gone. Peter Dempsey has gone, spun it around, trying to get it back sorted again. Very nearly takes Sean McGoldrick with him on the rejoin. Now have a look at that. They've got to be careful about those. But it'll be a scamper off into the Kent Sunshine for Keith Dempsey. Got the 44 on his helmet, and I tell you what, he has earned that, racing that from the front. It is number 36, Keith Dempsey, who will take the inaugural victory here in your RTA FF1600 series, and he will do so at canter from Rory O'Shea, who will inherit ahead of Sean McGoldrick, who will round out the podium. Massive dramas. Crucially, Peter Dempsey will finish just ahead of Jason Cooper, but those three are going to be racing for the championship all season long here, Craig.
Yeah, and if that's an indication of what we expect to see for the season, we are in for a fantastic racing around all season. Just checking other little battles at the end of the race. No one's catching any final positions here. So it looks like everything is going up. But as I say that, in May, and that was the two cars, Ian May and Albert Reid. Just a little bit of a mistake there from Reid, and does catch Ian May. And unfortunately, those two, what was looking at a decent finish, they just get a little bit of damage.
Yeah, Ian May there with the sort of driving that would be described as someone whose name is James there at that moment in time, just clambering over the top and able to get up and over in terms of that race. Pretty much everybody then over the line, so we'll be able to bring you results then from Brands Hatch, the opening race of 3 that we've got going on here today. It was, in the end, Keith Dempsey who would pick up the victory in 15 minutes and 35 seconds, would win by a margin of 5.7 seconds over Rory O'Shea. In second, Sean McGoldrick would finish third ahead of Tony Stack, who would get fourth, and Sean McClements would round out the top 5. It will also function as the consolation grid, which is just about going on right now with 6th position going through. That will be Peter Dempsey ahead of Jason Cooper, with Jamal Gandor in 8th, Brandon McCoggan in 9th, and Lawrence de Sosua rounding out the top 10 as they line up for grid positions here, Craig.
Yeah, and this is going to be crucial for the likes of DeSova, Farrow, and also just look at that as well with some of the other drivers there, McCorgan, Parks, Chan, Knox as well in 14th. Some of these drivers would love to try and get that final spot for the transfer to get into pole position for the feature race. But for Dempsey and O'Shea right now, the question is, can they hold on to this? O'Shea's got to be feeling really happy to get that P2. It's just been gifted to him after what happened at the end of that race.
Absolutely has. Top 8 will invert. They'll have 5 seconds before the lights then will go on, and this second race will get itself into view. Currently in sim time right now is interesting because we're right at the top, 2:15 in the afternoon. We're in the midday sun, so to speak. Let's get ourselves ready then. Race 2 gets itself underway. Dempsey with a good start. Shocker from Tony Stack off of the second row of the grid. He is going to fall miles back, about 3-4 places they run into the opening corner. Are they going to get through Paddock Hill Bend? All okay. Yes, they are. Great start by Peter Dempsey. It looks like he's already challenged and got through on Sean McClements on the opening corner there. And as they now trundle on through the second corner on the lap there, Druids Corner, it looks like it's too wide, pretty much in the middle of the field.
Yeah, Jason Cooper trying to make a move around side Sean McClements was not going to happen for him. He's under a little bit of pressure from Gandor and the rest, and that from 5th backwards. It's still bunched up here. Cooper really wants to try and get moving here. He's unable to. Nobody jumped the start this time by. Back in the midfield, back especially, everyone's just having a quick battle. End of Farrell not having the best of starts and trying to make up some places as well, losing 3 on the start, about to get another position.
About to get another position, about to really find it there through as they go at Westfield. One car's going to go straight off the road. And he's going to have to avoid everybody coming back on. And that is going to be Peter McCann, who's going to find himself a long way away as he will now start to drive through. So he's got work to do as he charges forward. At the front is the top 4 who have broken away. 5th on back gets interesting. Currently it is Tony stacking the transfer at this point. So they rush through then towards the Clark curve, named after legendary driver Jim Clark, the 2-time Formula 1 world champion, through that final section. Well done between them, but at least for the moment, they're going to start battling over towards Paddock Hill Bend, and one of them who is going to be Jason Cooper, who's pretty much wants to battle with everybody so far. And speaking of battling with everybody, look at that. Already, Peter Dempsey has made his way back up to 2nd. It's taken him 6th to 2nd, just a lap.
Yeah, he's really managed to get under control of that car. Taking those positions, he's almost on the back of Keith Dempsey himself. Meanwhile, Jason Cooper, who's in similar positions, was struggling. And all of a sudden, Sean McClements just having a little bit of a slide. Kept that car going, though. Kept it on the asphalt and managed to keep it going. Only losing 1 position. That's a fantastic save. Now, if you're Sean, maybe start to use Cooper just to catch up with the rest of the field. Because now, all of a sudden, Jason is on a run.
He is. Rory O'Shea, though, having to deal with Sean McGoldrick, 4th position just in front of them. They can easily catch. Off the road goes Peter Dempsey. You can tell he's pushing. He really wants to get up to the back then of Keith Dempsey, who leads this race outright. So Peter having to really push now to as much as he possibly can. Tell you who else has had a great start. Chris Knox. He's up now inside the top 8 at this moment in time. He is flying out there as they go through. Let's take a look though at what happened earlier on then in this race with the Global SimRacing Channel replay. This is what happens off the start going in towards turn number 4 out on circuit. This is how quickly it can go wrong here, Craig. It's just a tap of tyres and just like that, track gets jammed.
Yeah, Robert Fleming there with a little bit of a spin, and all of a sudden it is all then. That's the line everyone wants to take. So if you're too wide there, there's nowhere else to go. It's such a shame for some of those drivers to be caught up in that. They're at the back of the field now, and they're going to have to try to see what they can do in that feature race. Remember, this is a 10-minute race, not 15 like the first race. We're already 4 minutes into the race, and you start to see a lot of the drivers are starting to pull away. Chris Knox, he's almost on for another position, you know. He's right behind Sean McClements.
He is, as we focus on Peter McCann having to defend from Bruno Walraven here. The race for 10th and 11th positions at this stage, soon to head towards the halfway stage in this one. Brandon McCoggan has been disqualified. I can only imagine that is for the ping there that was going around, so no surprises there on that. So that will be the end of him in terms of what he's tried to do in racing today. But there is the group in about 3rd position on, because fourth position on, because Jason Cooper and co are all there. They're all stuck behind Rory O'Shea in 3rd. The Dempsey's getting away, but at this point, O'Shea holding back McGoldrick, Cooper, McClements, Knox, and then you've got the group behind of Stack and Sosla, who are fighting right now for the transfer.
Yep, Stack's trying to get on that inside line. De Sosa can only go one way. Dempsey's gone into the wall, and he's stuck in the wall.
Peter Dempsey goes around, number 33, able to extricate himself out from the tyres as he goes through. Chris Knox with another fastest lap. Rory O'Shea once again inherits 2nd position. There's a theme running through this story. Big run then on the brakes as McGoldrick holds off Jason Cooper, who holds off McClements, who holds off Knox, as this group now looks to really charge down in through turn 3. Rory O'Shea, you can see, just having to constantly look behind at everything that's going on. Look out, though, to the inside, because here comes the move. Thank you very much. Sean McGoldrick was not going to take no for an answer as they race now up towards Pilgrim's Drop.
Yeah, a little bit of a slide through Graham Hill there for O'Shea. Was able to keep it under control. Look at these 3 cars here. And there's a little tap there from O'Shea and keeps it going. And I don't know how any of those cars kept it alive there. But O'Shea takes that position back. And Jason Cooper, he's finally inside for one of these moves. And he finally gets that P3.
Oh, he does, and he does so fantastically. It's a well-crafted move. He was really trying to be aggressive up the hill. They're going to start searching. They're going to have to be careful that they don't take too much out of that inside. Otherwise, they're going to start running into slowdown penalties. That's not going to be helpful at all. Knox now is looking around as in goes then Trouble McGoldrick, who was right up at the front, has been shuffled all the way to the back, nearly pushed Chris Knox into the grass. But just like that, they're in trouble. So you have to look a little bit behind as well, because let's not forget, you got Stack, DeSoswa, and now Walraven, who are all there, and they're racing for pole position in race 3.
Yeah, Walraven at the moment will be the unlucky driver because he'll be starting in 9th. But at the moment, DeSosa would be pole, and Stack would be P2 if they keep battling. You're seeing the battle in front of them as well there as Chris Knox is trying to get past his teammate, or car with a similar livery, in Sean McGoldrick. Sean Mechanic, because Sean McGoldrick's right behind them. And there's even battles going up ahead of them as well as Jason Cooper finally gets past Rory O'Shea. And once again, Cooper's in second for the umpteenth time this night. Can he hold on to it? Again, the comments are not going. It is everywhere you look right now, Jake, is a battle.
It is, and you got side by side now, and this is between Stack and DeSoswa out there. Lawrence on the outside trying to hold on to station. Walraven trying to get into the mix, isn't going to get there. They'll get a 4th to the party now, and Peter McCann, who's trying to recover back into the top 8 at this point in time. This really becomes a crucial stage. The more that they start battling, the more it's going to be a case of struggles, as one car then went off the road just in the front of shot. That was Chris Knox, who there found himself going through, and he's the sort of driver, really, you look at, Craig, who graduated from the racing school of Hard Knocks with straight A's.
He did indeed. You start to see how he's actually been able to keep working here. He's +8 this race. Made a nice move earlier, then made that mistake. He's going to make a move back there as McGoldrick had a little bit of a slide. Keith Dempsey taking the fastest lap once again. He's got to solidify that lead and win for the second race, but it is all about these positions at the back of the field. This is the 3-car battle for that important final transfer spot, actually making a 4-car battle for P7 all of a sudden. Stack, DeSosa, Walraven and McCann.
None of them are going to move up if these two in front continue to race side by side. Door opens, big slide goes through from Tony Stack, which unironically stacks them up, and through will go Walraven up into 7th position. DeSoswa will fall to the back of the group, and then all of a sudden it's going to be McCann who picks up 1 and is now going to start thinking about, well, okay, well, there's 1, but I've got to try and get another one if I want to get through, because they are racing hard for it. DeSosa's going to pick 1 back up, but back to the inside will go Sean McGoldrick, trying to take this place. He's going to give the shove, and they're going to be 3 wide almost to the Westfield bend. Look at the fine margins they're racing for here. This is for a transfer.
This is just for a transfer, but it's an important transfer for the feature race of the evening, and they're holding on. Stack would get P2. Walraven would get pole position. DeSosa and McCann, they'd be left with nothing. All of a sudden, it is all change here as these drivers keep battling. And can we just say, there was almost a tyre rub there between Stack and Walraven, and they both kept this car stable. It's amazing the car control some of these drivers are having out there today. As you start to see, Walraven at that inside line on that little banked straight that is known as the Brabham Straight.
And they're going to be almost 3 wide here in towards Paddock Hill Bend as finally the flagman waits the final lap. This race going on for 8th place. Peter Dempsey sets the fastest lap. He's in 11th. He's trying to chase on to this group. If these drivers find themselves in trouble, it's Peter Dempsey who will profiteer out of it then. Between all of the drivers that are here, it is still then going to be Walraven in 7th, Tony Stack currently in 8th place, DeSoswa and McCann still trying to search for moves, but now looking for a bit of insurance here as Tony Stack. Look at the inside, round you go. There goes Peter McCann. He finds himself in trouble. His chances of pole position in race 3 then dash before his very eyes. As this all happens, it's going to be Keith Dempsey at the front of the field, Rory O'Shea falling backwards of Jason Cooper here in this second race. It is McClement who is ahead of Knox and McGoldrick at this point. Back for 7th and 8th though. It's still DeSoswa trying to find an overtake, still trying to find a move, but there is Keith Dempsey, who once again has just ridden the storm essentially in terms of this race. He is the coolest head in a room full of 6 shooters here at Brands Hatch. He will round himself through the Jim Clark curve, and at the double, Keith Dempsey will take race 2 and a further 30 points into the back pocket. It'll be Jason Cooper second, Rory O'Shea will be third. And looking at who's going to be 7th and 8th, it looks like Tony Stack will just hold on to that 8th place.
Yeah, De Sosa could not find a way through. He got down to the Derek Minter straight into Westfield, looked for a position. It was not there. Unfortunately for Lawrence, that is going to be a P9 in the race. But well done to Tony Stack. He's going to take pole position. A shout out to Bruno Wallraven there, though. 10 positions made in the race. He's going to start on the front row with a stellar drive from 17.
Yeah, absolutely incredible work there as the last of the drivers will go through. There'll be a 5-minute warm-up before they reach the feature that goes on through. Looks like there have been troubles on the final lap for Sebastian Scholten. He's dropped about 15 seconds somewhere on the road, so he's dropped way back on the final laps. The last of the drivers will come on through. We can then, once they all cross, get confirmation of result as they all find themselves in position. It is Keith Dempsey who will pick up then the result then and do so fantastically through with a 10-minute 55-second time ahead of Jason Cooper by 3.4 seconds. It was Rory O'Shea who would finish off in 3rd position overall, as we've just caught the results right as the session's changed over, which is why there we got a little bit of trouble there. But 4th position would be Sean McClements. Chris Knox would finish 5th ahead of Sean McGoldrick. Bruno Wallraven would be in 7th, and it would be Tony Stack in 8th place. The top 10 would be rounded out by Lawrence De Sosa and then Peter Dempsey, who would finish the race as such. Barra Hodson, Brian McCarthy, Peter McCann, then your top 13 as they all went on through the results that we got. We do have a chance, though, to talk to a couple of drivers, though. First and foremost, we're going to get a chance to chat with Jason Cooper, who finished 2nd in that 2nd race. He stood by with Craig King.
Yeah, Jason with a fantastic drive back up after what happened in the first race. It looked like it was going well for you in that first race, Jason, and then things just fell apart, but you've managed to pick it back up after that 2nd race.
Yeah, a bit of a shame in the first one. I locked up into Druids on the first lap, which put me wide, and then I had a little bit of a good battle for the rest of the race, and then I ruined it starting the last lap. Just caught my wheel on the grass, exiting clearways, and put it in the pit wall. And luckily, the damage isn't working this week, so I was able to drive off and finish the race. But yeah, not ideal. But that race there was good. I enjoyed that. Bit passing.
Yeah, talk to me about these battles though as well with the two Dempseys, because it looked like you were struggling because it wasn't. It was almost like you tried to get past one of them, and it was kind of the worst thing to do because it looked like you were struggling to get past both of them.
Yeah, of course they're gonna try and work together, aren't they? So makes it extra interesting. But no, I enjoyed it. It was good. It was good clean race. Just a shame I just kept the grass.
So with the reverse grid, what are you expecting on the reverse grid? Starting 7th. So that should be beneficial for you. Do you expect to be fighting for the lead at the end of the race?
Hopefully, if I manage to survive and don't hit the grass again, then yeah, hopefully that's the aim. So I've had a bit of practice now, so see if we can do it again.
Well, Jason, knock on wood, and hopefully we see you across the finish line in what way will be one piece because there's no damage this week. But of course, across the finish line in one of those lead positions. We wish you all the best and go well for that final race.
Cheers. See you in a bit.
Well, there you have it, Jason Cooper, who ended up in 2nd. We will also get the chance then to chat with Rory O'Shea, who has twice found himself on the podium in this opening round. Rory, pace-wise, maybe the drivers in front of you have something a little bit more, but for you, it's been about consistency of result, and finding yourself the ability to consistently put the laps has got you 2 podiums so far.
Yeah, absolutely. I think coming into this, I knew that maybe my pace wouldn't be great compared to the top guys, so it was always kind of the plan just to keep the nose clean as best as I can, really.
So you found yourself then in a position, you're looking at where you are, you start 6th position coming into then this race that comes on through, this 20-minute race. What's your process looking through with quick drivers behind the likes of both Dempsey's, Jason Cooper? Are you just looking for a quick start, gain as many places as you can, or are you immediately thinking about those drivers behind you and looking to try and put on a defense to try and make sure you're consolidating your position?
I think probably the best way to go about it for me is to let the 3 of them guys go, really, because they're going to pass me eventually. I think I'm nearly better off just working with them and working my way up, really. I think that's the smartest thing to do.
And very quickly, just talk about the caliber of the field. We're about a minute away from the race starting, but you come into this series as the RTA GT1 champion. What sort of skills do you bring from your GT1 championship that brings you into good stead for this championship?
Like, in terms of driving the car, I'm not honestly sure if there's much similarities, like, but I think in terms of handling pressure and stuff like that and just doing quick, consistent laps, I feel like I learned a lot from that championship with really quick guys bearing down on me, as like that was my first ever like sim racing championship. So I think it's just that sort of stuff is the most important.
Well, we hope it lands you in good stead then. Rory O'Shea, 2 podiums, a second and a third, and looking to try and go to the top step then in this final race going through. So, Craig, it puts us now in a situation here where these drivers know they've got about 10 seconds before they go through. They've got an extra 10 minutes compared to the consolation. Does that give them more time to breathe and slow down in this race and really pick and choose the overtake?
Honestly, no. If it was anything longer, you would start to think about it. But 10 minutes, 20 minutes, it's still something similar. You'd be almost in the same mindset as that feature race, because the first race, because the first race decide the grid for the second race. That's what you've got to be thinking about right now. Now you know that the goal is first. The goal isn't get to the top 8 as they start to grid up. So it's going to be very interesting. If you're the likes of Tony Stack, you want to try and see where you can go. If you're Bruno Warwaven as well, you've got to be thanking yourself you're a P2. Sean McGoldrick in 3rd and Chris Knox in 4th. Sean McClements in 5th, Roy O'Shea 6th. We're just talking to Jason Cooper 7th, Keith Dempsey 8th. Lawrence de Sosa will be 9th, and Peter Dempsey will be 10th. Look for those Dempseys early on, and Jason Cooper as well. How many positions will he get straight away as we just quickly run down the rest of the field?
Yeah, the likes of Peter McCann in 13th will be worth keeping an eye out on, so too. Ronan Hederman, who's made good progress back into 17th position. Johnny McMullen gained 10 over that section, but we're down to the final 10 seconds before they take themselves then through into racing prowess then, because you've got the likes there all the way down towards the back there, the likes of Fleming, who's had a few troubles here today. But here we go. This is it. 20 minutes on the clock. Who is going to take all the marbles then away from Brands Hatch? Big jump start, huge jump start. Let's get ourselves underway. If you're going to jump by a little, you may as well jump by a lot. Graham Melvin with the biggest jump start in sim racing history, Craig.
I don't know what I just saw, but I saw Bruno Woolraven get a brilliant start over Tony Stack. He takes the lead there, 3 wide in the back going into Druids. That's the 35, that is Jason Cooper, that is Sean McClement. Lawrence de Sosa, they are 3 wide through Druids. I can't believe I've just said that.
The 3 wide through Druids, and they survive it. They rush through now. Graham Hill, de Sosa back in 10th. And there's a little bit of argy-bargy which pushes him off the road. He's going to have to be careful on how he joins back on as they head down to Surtees Bend here. Turn number 4 out on track as they lead to the rise as the race effectively for 1st, 2nd and 3rd continues on here. It's going to be Chris Knox side by side with Tony Stack, looking for the place then, looking for the overtake and trying to thread it through 3 wide on just a little shot. Here comes the move to the inside. Stack gets shuffled out by a very aggressive Keith Dempsey.
Stacks is pushed off there, and he's going to have to try and do a mighty recovery drive this early in the race. And you start to see more drivers trying to make their way through, but it does give Bruno Woolraven a little bit of breathing room early on in this race, as some of the big names yet to make their mark on this field. I was expecting a couple of drivers to make big gains early on, apart from Graham Melvin, who made that mighty jump. Nobody else is making the move so early.
Oh, it's a drive-through penalty for a jump start. He only missed it by a little bit there, Craig. Just the 5 seconds.
just a little bit. But I think that is iRacing. I think that is iRacing not top 10 there. Yeah, O'Shea's in trouble there. We've heard that he had a moment out on the course. I don't know where he is.
It's the Tim Clark curve where it's gone wrong. He's just grabbed the grass, spun it round. He's just about tapped the barriers and kept it going, so he's way down. There is Edna Farrell having a great race. Enda Farrell having a great race at this moment, up into what is in and around that top 10. So certainly flying about then on this second lap. Ender is really starting to prove what is worth then going through this section. Look at the group behind. That train stacks all the way back to about Andrew Murphy in about 19th, 20th position.
It is still competitive everywhere you look, and look at the two wides everywhere down the Pilgrims drop. And you'll see drivers trying to make moves here. And in the background, you'll see Edna Farrell trying to beat Brian McCarthy there. It's able to, and even more, when you look at the front of the field, even after Wallraven's lost the lead, look how stacked up it is.
Oh, hello. It's 3 wide as we head to the Sheen curve, which is 1 line suits all at best. And there's the fan out. There's the spin. Round goes McCarthy. Is that McCarthy there who's maybe gone around there? That's a big issue there that's gone through. There's more dramas off the exits. John McDonald looks like he's collided with Ronan Hederman. So they've all come together. And while all of this has happened, Chris Knox leads Keith Dempsey.
We weren't expecting that, but with the pace that Knox has shown today, why not? He's just fantastic. One driver's gone off though, and that is Keith Dempsey. He's made a mistake. From P2, he's lost out here. He's now shuffled all the way down to P7. That puts Chris Knox back into P2 because all of a sudden Bruno Wallraven has capitalized on those mistakes. You just don't know where to look at the moment. Where's the safest place to be in that pack at the moment? I think really you've got to be the third car in this pack if you want to do well.
Big smoke there in the background, and the key there to the Knox Dempsey issue is the fact that Keith Dempsey absolutely threw it into Paddock Hill Bend. Chris Knox holding the middle of the road, never deviated from his line, and as such, tyre-to-tyre contact. That's why Dempsey was out in the gravel at Paddock Hill Bend, dragging it all back on. Chris Knox currently in third because Bruno Wallraven has gone back to the front of this group. We've still got 15 minutes, 50 seconds to go. Second position now is Sean McClement. We've got Chris Knox in third, Jason Cooper now up into fourth. Peter Dempsey has climbed from 10th up to 5th. Sean McGoldrick now in 6th, and Keith Dempsey, it's the top 7 who are clear at the moment, as now they're starting to poke their nose out and find themselves a little bit of a move. But this is trial by fire for Bruno Wallraven at the front of this field.
But at the moment, no one's competing against Bruno. Everyone's competing against themselves as Knox has a slide through the Clark curve. And then a little tap and Cooper's in the wall.
Oh,
and more as well.
That's a huge, huge issue there for Jason Cooper. That's how quickly it can go wrong. Just the smallest grab, the smallest wiggle. And Jason Cooper said, providing that he survives, and he doesn't, Knox also did very well to keep it out of the barriers there and keep himself somewhat in track position, able to keep this one going. But crucially enough, you've got Knox still there in 6th. But it is Wallraven McClement, and now it's Peter Dempsey who is into 3rd, and it's Keith Dempsey, who, remember, was in the gravel just a lap ago, in 7th, now up to 4th place.
Yep, they're holding on, and if you've got Dempsey's working together, anything can happen here, so expect Peter to open a hole for Keith to follow him through. This could be pretty dangerous for the rest of the field, but look at that, the top 6 are a second and a half together. They are in their own little pack. You've got to keep your eyes on Jason Cooper. He is 2 seconds behind Evan Walsh in 11th. A top 10 is still possible for him, but we're just going to have to wait and see what happens. Meanwhile, at the front, it is all quiet on the Western front, or should I say the Dempsey front.
It is all quiet at the moment, but they all have to look around and go, well, okay, we've still got a long way to go in this race, and here comes the overtake then, as here comes the Dempseys. First of all, it's Peter past Sean McClements on the run, then to the Jim Clark curve as he goes around the outside, but he can't quite get himself back into line, and that's what allows McClements on that inside to continue to try and go through. It's on the wrong side of the train, and Keith Dempsey trying to pinch down as they head to Paddock Hill Bend. Now have to scrap through the corner, which is not exactly what Keith wants on that outside. All of a sudden, McGoldrick starting to think about, can I find a way to the inside? He doesn't, but McClements, what a good battle he's got. Still though on the outside, brilliant work by Keith Dempsey. He'll have the inside for Graham Hill. Ben takes the track away, thank you very much. But here comes the up and under once again, and this is where it costs time.
There's just all the time they're costing themselves at the moment. Meanwhile, though, Peter's fighting Bruno so it is helping them. How did they not touch there? Keith and Sean, they must have almost had their wheels on the side pods and they managed to hold it together. You now start to see you've got Sean McGoldrick and Chris Knox battling. Peter McCann must be thinking that this is happening, and he must be licking his lips because he could catch up to this right now. That gap's only 1.8 between himself and Chris Knox. Anything can happen. Once again, the top 6 are within a second, and it is just so nice. That is a rear view that is just fantastic. You start to see exactly the challenge that is right behind this car.
Yeah, Peter Dempsey there just making the move through Pilgrim's Drop and into the Hawthorne curve to move up to the race lead for the first time then in this race. So he's got control, but this is the key. When you're at the front, it's all right. When you're within range, you can stay in range if you maybe have a little bit less pace. So Walraven will be alert to that. Keith Dempsey's trying to really charge through, and he'll want to usurp that away. Gap opens up, gap to the inside. Dempsey 1, Dempsey 2, spin behind. There goes Knox, there goes McGoldrick, there goes McClements. All 3 of them off the road at Paddock Hill.
Yeah, Knox got a little bit ambitious there. He got one car down the straight and he thought he could make a second car under braking, and he just went in too hot. The car started sliding out and he caught one and the other one followed them, and that is such a shame. I was going to say keep your eyes on Knox. It looked like he was making a charge up the field. Unfortunately, he's got to do it all over again. There's still 11 and a half minutes left in this race, but he's P8 now, as the likes of Walsh and McMullen all of a sudden find themselves inside the top 10. Here's a replay.
Yeah, this is how quickly it can go from good to bad. 2 wide going through, Knox on the inside, just loses the back end, couldn't get it pulled up. And ultimately, I think McGoldrick maybe went off a bit in sympathy compared to everyone else stuck on that outside. So that's where the troubles brought themselves into play. But the group then led by Evan Walsh at this moment, who started P20, mind you, at the start of racing here in this third race. He's doing well. Let's not forget, Peter Dempsey started, get this, P10. He leads.
You would think when it's a reverse grid that maybe the top 8 would be the ones fighting for the victory. Out of the top 8 that started this race, only 3 of them are still in the top 8. Actually, no, 4 of them are still in the top 8. That is Walraven, that is De Souza, that is Chris Knox, and of course that is Keith Dempsey. That is the only ones that have still remained in that top 8 after everything going on. So you've got to give a shout out to Evan Walsh and Johnny McMullen, making up 14 and 12 places respectively, as Chris Knox, don't count him out just yet, as he's gained another position over Johnny McMullen, and he is also keeping with him Jason Cooper.
I'm looking at these front 2. I find it so interesting that the 2 Dempseys have Lewis Hamilton and George Russell helmets.
Oh, I have not noticed that. I don't want to like pull off my Mercedes impersonation, but it does feel like we're going to be doing a little bit of George do not overtake Lewis at the moment, because it does feel like they're just going to be working in tandem now to pull away from Bruno Walraven.
Yeah, let's keep Dempsey in second. There is Bruno Walraven trying to hold on in third position. They've got a big gap of 4 seconds to Peter McCann, who is in 4th place. So they've certainly got a lot of gap to work with, and look at how they charge through this section. Jason Cooper back up into 8th place. Top 5 not out of the question. Knox in 7th, Walsh in 6th, Lawrence de Sousa in 5th. So this is a big moment if you want to try and get back into this race, and this is why you never give up in a race like this, because you might just have the race come back to you.
Especially with the amount of spins we've seen today. I know some drivers probably would have got a handle on the car and the track now, but there are still those chances that you may just push a little bit too hard, as we saw with Chris Knox earlier in the race. So just hold on to your hat and hold on to those seatbelts, because anything can happen. And right now, Chris Knox trying to make those moves. He's side by side with Evan Walsh. He's going to make this move so simple, and he may bring a little bit of help with him, and that is Jason Cooper going, thank you very much. You left the door open. I'm going to take this. I'm going to follow through. These 2 could work together here.
Thank you very much. 2 for the price of 1. Then the door opening up, and Jason Cooper following in suit there through on Evan Walsh. McMullen there, McGoldrick as well, trying to get into the mix behind. This group now still stacked up behind De Sousa in 5th position. This is for vital points out there. Every time you're talking about points mean prizes. With an 8-round season, 30 points per win, those points are going to rack up really quickly, a maximum of 90 points on offer, which is what Keith Dempsey's going for. But the Soswa really defending right now, and this is going to open the door up. Thank you very much. Jason Cooper searches for the inside, no room to go, trying to thread the needle. Knox leaves a lot of room on the outside. The Soswa runs out wide, gets a little tap as well, has to go Tony Hawk mode through the grass, get the pipe out, get the vert going, but that is Jason Cooper up into a top 5.
Yep, and that is also, look at that, that is Chris Knox following as well. 3.5 seconds could probably disappear in a couple of laps, so they may get a chance to get a P4 here, could Cooper. There's only 7.5 minutes left there, and that is such a shame for Lawrence there. Just catching a little bit of the greasy stuff on the off the racing line and just losing out. But all of a sudden, you've got these cars, and look at these cars. All that battling has just dragged in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6, count them, Formula 4s as they're all battling for a top 5.
Yeah, they're all there. They all want to get through, and the key is going to be how well do they want to coordinate, because it's 3 seconds to Peter McCann, and that's probably the story they're going to get to. The fact they've got someone as talented as Jason Cooper on the front of this group now, it's probably going to mean that it's going to be a lot more difficult to make those overtakes, which you get that concertina of reverse grid style racing. Everyone sort of clambers around. Now Keith Dempsey with eyes of grandeur on the clean sweep, the grand slam, so to speak, as he goes through. Actually, it can't be a grand slam because he didn't get pole position in qualifying, so he can't get that in the books, but he wants the clean sweep at least here of all 3 races. He wants them in the back pocket, but he's got to get past Peter, and Peter, well, he's going to want as many points as he can too.
Yeah, Peter is probably thinking, hey, come on, you've had 2. Let me have 1. Just please, let's just share them out. You don't need to take all of them. Don't be so greedy. But at the moment, it does feel like he's unable to make moves by. But then again, with 6 minutes left, there is still a good amount of time left. I think it's about 4 laps roughly they would get. And this battle here is still brewing because Chris Knox is unable to make a move here. I think Johnny McMullen might be the one to make some moves here, see if he can get past Evan Walsh. Unable to. It's looking a bit challenging here. Also, eyes on Jason Cooper. He's taking these corners really smooth while the rest of these drivers are just heating those tyres up and throwing them in.
32.1 that last time by Jason Cooper. Knox a 32 flat. Group behind doing 32.4s. That's why the gap's starting to open a little bit here to Evan Walsh. So there are your position gainers up on screen, +9 and +6 for the Dempseys. Walsh +13, McMullen up 11. And then you've got McCluffrey and also Murphy, both of whom are up 10. So they're both doing well.
Yeah, they're both doing well at the moment. I think it's now +11 and 12. I think there was a moment in the back of the field. And that's all helpful for them. Even though they're not getting a top 10, they're still in a high position to gain points, and points do mean prizes, as we were saying earlier, and that's what they want. Sean McGoldrick looking like he wanted to make a move, unable to. Where do you make these moves? You've got to be tactical. If you're in a group, you've got to start thinking tactical right now with 4 minutes and change left, because if you try and put your nose in a corner, it is hard to make an overtake. It is going to cost you. Realistically, you're going to have to try and do this on the straights.
There is Andrew Murphy, P15, and looking to try and make that P14 as he tries to pass Ronan Hederman for position. Peter Dempsey sets the fastest lap of the race, but Andrew Murphy here, one of the key players of the game, so to speak, when it comes to RTA, is going to be looking for a move. They've also got McCluffrey, who is there, and in comes Hederman then into the pits, and I will not be surprised, yes it is, for a incident limit violation, and we are going to be seeing those because look how aggressive everyone's been driving.
Yeah, this is really aggressive from everybody, and this is a battle for 16th or now 15th position because of that pit stop there. And you start to see it's McCarthy, it's McDonald, it's Hodson, sorry, it's McDonald, O'Shea and Hodson, and you'll start to see that Hodson trying to hold off these moves, and in the backfield there's the lap car of Tony Stack as well. And look at this, 2 wide through Graham Hill. Just yes, thank you very much. Hodson does get his nose out, but can O'Shea retaliate? He does indeed. And look at how much they're fighting to keep these cars going around the wide exit there at Surtees.
Yeah, they really are trying to use everything that they've got, and then it becomes a case of who's got momentum, and that becomes key. Inside then, 2 laps it will be when they cross the line. Dempsey versus Dempsey, Peter versus Keith, and it will be a question of how much do you want to push. A little bit wide goes Peter Dempsey, gives Keith the race lead. Now, how much of that is gamesmanship and game theory? I don't want the lead going on to the last lap. I think I could get a run.
I don't think it is, because Peter actually touched the grass on the exit of Clark. If you're going to use grass as gamesmanship, I've got to be brutally honest, you've got to be very brave to keep that car stable. So some really good driving if that was the case. But with a couple of laps left, it all looks like Keith is just going to start to turn the screw. He may start turning it a little bit late in the race, but that 31.582 is fantastic for him, and even more battles still going on around the field. Everybody wants a position.
Yeah, McGoldrick there, and there you've also got the race for 4th. Peter McCann has been caught by Jason Cooper, so it's on for 4th. You got 2 tandem challenge. Here comes Peter Dempsey back to the inside. Thank you very much, but here comes the up and under from Keith. Is he going to teach a lesson to the other Dempsey? Answer is yes on the inside. He'll force him out into the gravel.
There's not a lot of run up there. You think there's more run up, but unfortunately there is not enough. Peter manages to keep that car going. I thought there was going to be a spin there. He's got 1 second. Can he hold on? Can he catch up? I don't think he's going to be able to. Meanwhile, look at these battles going along. Knox, McCann, Cooper. Cooper getting up to P4. McCann trying to hold on as well. You've also got battles. There's been a collision between McMullen and Goldrick.
Yeah, and it continues on into Surtees and McGoldrick. Then around, it looks like it's caught someone else up. It's caught the lap traffic of Albert Reid. White flag in the air for Keith Dempsey, who doesn't matter if you share a final name. If you go through, he will be as ruthless and as brutal as possible in terms of what he wants. This race then for 4th position will continue on. Cooper, McCann, Knox, Walsh, all there, all wanting to get into the mix. Defensive line taken then by McCann. Wants to keep Chris Knox behind, going through Druid, and they stay as it is for the moment.
Managed just to hold on, but now Evan Walsh is involved in this battle just a little bit, but he's trying to keep up with them. He'll be pouncing on any mistake here, and now is there going to be a move here? Chris Knox did think about it. He has compromised his exit here through Surtees, but just look at that line. Jason Cooper so smooth around Surtees. He's pulling away, and just expect to see a position from Chris Knox. Can he get past Peter McCann around the outside? It won't even be a battle. He's got that signed up.
Knox, he's there, and he gets the place, and he runs a little bit wide off the exit as well. Oh, how does he save it? And he just about manages it, but he's got no drive through Westfield Bend. Back through will go the duo of Walsh and McCann. But to the front we must go, because Keith Dempsey is about to put on a showcase that he can be so proud of. Checkered flag will be waving for him at Brands Hatch, because he will head up towards Liverpool and Alton Park next week, knowing he is flawless. 100% to start. He takes the sweep here in the RTA Formula Ford 1600 Championship. Dempsey 2nd, Warraven 3rd. It's Cooper 4th, and crucially enough, it's McCann who holds off Evan Walsh in the race for 5th and 6th.
And that is everything for him. A P5 is a fantastic comeback as well. I think there's been a little spin in the back of the field as well. Did not catch who it was. It only affects them in the other position as they keep coming by. Sean McGoldrick holds off Brian McCarthy, and that's going to be for 13th position. Evan Walsh was plus 14 on the race, which is a fantastic performance from him as well. Brilliant as all these drivers come around. I don't think there's any late battles going on. But all of a sudden, with every car going by, we are starting to see Keith Dempsey pulling off the hat trick.
Yeah, 3 races out of 3. You can't really argue with that in terms of result. We're going to step aside for one moment here with the Global SimRacing Channel. We'll be back with post-race coverage after this. You're watching the RTA Formula Ford 1600 Championship here with the Global SimRacing Channel. A crazy 3 races then to kick off the season at Brands Hatch. The fantastic RTA Formula Ford 1600 Championship. Certainly proving that at least on its opening week, we are in for a crazy showcase. One thing is for certain, though, Keith Dempsey is the driver who will have the target on his back. Flawless through 3 races, 100% win ratio. He had to push his own teammate out, his own brother out, so to speak. Peter Dempsey there, a win margin of 1.5 seconds, gets it done in race 3. Bruno Walraven will round out the podium ahead of Jason Cooper in 4th. Peter McCann would finish 5th with Evan Walsh in 6th. That followed Chris Knox, Johnny McMullen in 8th, Lawrence de Sosua in 9th, and Sean McClements rounding out the top 10.
As we keep going down the list, Edna Farrell will be 11th, and then Andrew Murphy will take 12th. Sean McGoldrick started 3rd and finished 13th, and Brian McCarthy will take 14th. Then Rory O'Shea will get 15th. John McDonald will get 16th. Barra Hodson will be 17th. Ronan Hederman will take 18th, and Ben McLaughlin 19th, followed by Robert Fleming in 20th. And we still have some more drivers left.
We certainly do. Rob Parks, Wayne O'Keefe in 22nd. Sebastian Scholten, likes of Patrick McKenna. Jamal Gandor had a good race 1. Races 2 and 3 didn't quite go the way that was needed. Same could be said for David Freeman. A lot of drivers getting penalties. Albert Reid, a lap down. Mark Ivory, Chan Wing Fei, a lap down. So too Gary Corcoran, finding a few troubles over the course of the 20 minutes. And then drivers who are multiple laps down or retirees. Dave Collier, Tony Stack, Ian May, Graham Melvin, a disqualification for Brandon McCocken, and then someone like me who is 14 laps down. I technically have 3 starts in this series and no points, so go figure. But we are going to get ourselves then a chance to talk with a few of the drivers. First and foremost, there is only one driver we must start with. That is Keith Dempsey. Keith, 3 wins out of 3. You go into Brands Hatch to start the season. Are you thinking that it's going to be that plain sailing?
No, it's a bit better than I expected, to be honest, tonight. Happy with the result. Didn't do a whole lot of practice, so yeah, no, really good racing from everybody tonight. In fairness, it was good, clean, and really close, which was really enjoyable. So no, great start to the championship, and glad to be back on my sim.
But you're back, you're pushing really hard, and you're the driver to beat. Let's talk you and Peter, because pushing him out with about a lap and a half to go, I guess, is a sign of endearment, I guess, between the two of you?
I don't think I pushed him out. I think it was a fair enough move, to be fair. We kind of done this kind of all our life, racing together, driving together, cycling, bikes, racing against each other. So yeah, no, I really enjoyed the two of us out the front, kind of waiting for the opportunity to kind of race against each other a bit harder, because we wanted to get a bit of a gap to 3rd place before we started messing. But yeah, no, really enjoyed it. 2 of us were, I didn't think I had the pace to kind of stay up there. I wasn't great. I kept burning up my rear tyres pretty late into the run, and Peter's better keeping the tyres fresh, so I was trying to wait behind him and keep my tyres a bit better, because that's where I was struggling the most. But yeah, he made a little bit of a mistake, and I got past him, and he got back past me, and then we had a bit of a touch, but I don't think it was nothing bad.
Well, 90 points in the back pocket. You head over to Alton Park and the international layout next week. First of 2 trips there. What are you thinking about with that international circuit? And does it suit you? Is it the sort of track that you're looking at going, this is the one I'm trying to really prove myself with?
No, not really. Kind of any track I'm happy enough on. It depends how much practice I get to do between now and then. But no, I won't be thinking about it too much until next week. And yeah, it'd be grand. Track doesn't really make a difference.
Track doesn't make a difference. That is a scary statement for every other driver who is there in the league. Before we let you go, the floor is yours here, Keith, for shout-out sponsors, anyone you'd like to thank. It's 3 fantastic victories for you here tonight at Brands Hatch. Yeah,
no, really happy. Thanks to the lads in RTA. They do a great job organising all the events. It's kind of a thankless job, but they do a great job organising it. And thanks to the lads in Digital Motorsport who gave me a graphics card for my computer to get me back on my sim. So thanks for all their support, and thanks to you lads as well.
No worries at all. Keith Dempsey there joining us, picking up 3 great victories here today at the Brands Hatch Circuit Grand Prix. It was, though, a driver who ended up on pole position, who managed to be a star all of himself. Bruno Walraven managed that, stood by with Craig King.
Yeah, get this for Bruno, ladies and gentlemen. Started 7th to 17th in the first race, 17th to 7th in the consolation, which put him on pole, and he finishes a P3. Bruno, that looked like a very fun drive there. It looked like you were having a lot of challenge from behind with the likes of Jason Cooper and Chris Knox. Where do you want to be when you're battling with those guys, at the front or in the middle?
Yeah, thanks very much for that. It's difficult, obviously, with the reverse grid starting at the front. I knew the fast guys were behind me and they would catch me. So it was really about stay consistent, picking my battles. I think that was the main thing. And I guess I got pretty lucky with some incidents behind me as well, which allowed me to finish P3.
Yeah, a little bit of incidents there, but of course that is the nature of racing, which is very handy. How did you find yourself? Because, like I said, you went down to 17th after the first race, and you fought yourself back up for 10 places to get that 7. What is your mentality going into a race like that, in that consolation race, to try and get back up to a position like that?
Yeah, I guess I qualified quite well for the first race, but unfortunately I had a spin in the first lap. Well, would put me pretty much back the grid. So it was really just about trying to gain as much positions on that race. I think I finished P17 then in the first race, which I knew then I would have to kind of fight through the field on the second race to get in a good position for the last race. And lucky enough with the reverse grid, I was able to get myself in the front row for the last race. Yeah.
So at this rate, of course, you've managed to keep yourself in a podium position after that. That's got to put some confidence and install you a little bit of motivation. Does that help you going into Alton Park next week? Is that a track that suits you more than Brands Hatch?
Yeah, absolutely. I think getting used to the car as well. The first race of the season, the car is quite difficult. It's really tricky to keep it on track. Learning the car more and more. And Alton Park is a great track. It's a narrow track, which will be tricky with a large grid like this, but I'm sure it'll be a lot of fun.
And before we let you go for the end of the night, is there any shout-outs you'd like to give before we go?
Just for all the lads from the Potato Nation, a great group, so shout out to everyone.
Well, Bruno, congratulations on that P3, and we look forward to seeing you next week. That was Bruno Walraven, Jake.
It certainly was, and a great result then for him, that third place, to bring it all on home. But that is going to bring us then over to a close for action here tonight from this Brands Hatch circuit. I want to give a massive thanks to everyone in the team who has got it done here today, of course, from Craig, from Daniel, and from Dougie. You can find special thanks here on screen for all of our partners who we get help from for using all of this stuff, especially the music from June Lalonde. Her stuff is amazing. You can go catch that on Bandcamp. But in terms of what is coming up next, in terms of action with us and our sim racing content, we will be looking at jumping over next week, I should say, first and foremost, to Alton Park. Tuesday, April the 25th will be our second round. You can catch that at 4 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. GMT, 9 p.m. BST, because we are in daylight savings. On top of that, our next broadcast overall is going to be on the weekend. Grand Prix Legends, Saturday, 9:30 a.m. Eastern, 1:30 GMT, 2:30 BST, and we're going oval racing. It is Phoenix Oval Legacy that will be challenging with that, so make sure to jump through. All the other broadcasts will be ticking over on your screen. You can catch that, and also make sure to join us on our socials, and as well go to our merch store, gsrc.storenvy.com. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.